Okay, so check this out. This is the React Loader tutorial at the end. And in it, you build this search input that adds a query parameter to the URL, and it filters this contact list. So if I type here, you can see, or in the tutorial on the form, there's an on-change listener. So anytime a value in the form changes, it submits the form. So if I type really fast, you can see that it made requests every time the form changed. But one of the cool things about React Router is that it will cancel outdated requests. So if a request is still in flight and then another newer one comes in to replace it, React Router is smart enough to cancel the old one, and you don't have to worry about managing those race conditions, which is pretty sweet. The not pretty sweet part about it is that even though these are canceled from the front end's perspective, that request was still sent, so your loader is still going to get hit. So here is the component that this is the route that this is happening in. I added one log right here after we fetched the contacts from the database. And you'll see, if you keep an eye on the terminal, okay. All right, 4 requests, 3 were canceled, but the loader was hit for every single one, which is less than ideal. If you cancel a request from the front end, you definitely don't want that request to get handled in the back end, and that's just a waste of resources. So how do you do this in React Router? So the tutorial route, like what you end up, has a lot more going on than I'll go over, but I've kind of mimicked it in this route that I just made up. So in it, there's a form with a search input, very much like the sidebar, and then the contacts, instead of the sidebar, I'm just JSON stringifying the loader data. So works the same. On change event on the form, every time it changes, going to submit. So if I do it again, same result. And then you'll see I added the same log here. You see the same, the loader get hit every single time. So one naive approach might be, or one, not, I don't know if it's naive, but one approach that you are apt to reach for is to keep track of a state value for the filter. So instead of doing this, we could set the filter based on this input changing, but since we don't want to make a request for every keystroke every time it changes, we want to introduce like a debounce, so only the latest one triggers the submit. We'll probably want to use a debounce hook, so debounced filter. Give it a filter value and a millisecond timeout. So now we have our debounced value, and then now do we reach for use effect to trigger our submit? I guess we can give that a shot. And then if type of debounce filter equals a string, then we'll do the submit. Q is going to be our debounce filter value. And we do this because initially it's going to be undefined. We don't want to trigger the the submit whenever the component first renders. So this would only occur when the filter is changed effectively. So let's look. Do the same thing. Let's reload. Oh. Alright, let's type Ryan again. Oh, I still have this on here. And the query parameter is still there. Okay, one more time. Ryan. Okay, cool. Now you see only one request was made. Do it again. Type really fast. Alright, awesome. So even though we're updating that state value for every keystroke, we're only submitting once after the value settles based on this 400 millisecond duration. But we've introduced 1, 2, 3, 4 hooks, and we're using useEffect to trigger a submit. That's a cardinal sin in React. You can't do that. You'll get yelled at. Everybody will make fun of you. No one will like you. So how do we do this instead? What's the right way to do this? Well, let's get rid of some of this. Let's put this back. Remove all this garbage. Oh, not all this garbage. We still need that. We should be back. Okay. Well, what we can do instead is leverage the client loader. And the client loader takes the request and the server loader and we'll just do this right now. Oops. Okay, so the client loader can act as a gate where you can introduce logic to conditionally call your loader. So this runs in the client. So the console log here, you'll see it gets logged in the client. It's running in the browser. It's not running on the server. So we'll introduce some logic here and conditionally initiate the request to the server loader. So what might that look like? Well, I was hanging out in Discord and Brian Ross dropped this knowledge bomb on all of us and kind of blew us all away, so I thought I'd share. So this is my own little spin on it, but let me paste in a new function and go over that. So what we can do is, since React Router is using abort signals to cancel those requests on the front end, we can use those in our client loader. We can latch onto those and do logic based on that. So in this request not canceled function, it's kind of like our debounce function. We're going to accept the request and a millisecond duration, and then we're going to return a promise. In the promise, we're going to inspect the signal. If it's already aborted, we're going to reject the promise. We're going to throw it away. And then otherwise, we're going to set up a timeout. So after however long the milliseconds we define, we're going to call the resolve function, which is going to resolve the promise. And then we're also going to listen for this abort event on the request signal. And if that happens, we're going to clear the timeout and then reject. Otherwise, the timeout's going to call our resolve. So back in our client loader, we can use this request not canceled, pass the request, and our millisecond value. So now Let's do the same thing. Type Ryan again. There we go. How easy is that? Was only one request was made. We don't have all those canceled. Our loader only got hit once with the settled value, and we don't have to muddy up our UI component with a bunch of hooks. I mean, this is awesome. This is way better than our first go at it. So I thought this was awesome. Thanks again, Brian, for sharing this with all of us on Discord.